Good afternoon. It's once again 5:30 in the p.m. on a Friday. And of course, this is your host for the next 25 minutes of Hotline 21, U.S. Representative Danny Kenyatta Davis. And as usual, I am delighted to be with you. Our telephone number is 312-738-1060. And I plan to talk about a number of different things today. Of course, I just got in last night from Washington, District of Columbia. Had a very interesting town hall meeting discussion last night in the 3rd Ward with Alderman Pat Dow and the residents of that area, where citizens are affected by noise from the railroad trains and tracks, and we had a very spirited discussion last night because people don't want to have their sleep interrupted with the trains servicing themselves or being serviced late at night, and they like to have regularly scheduled times when they could expect these things to happen. They also don't want just the noise. I mean, they're in close proximity to the railroad tracks, and so it was a terse, hard-nosed discussion, and we promised the residents, Alderman Dowell and I both promised the residents, that we will continue to pursue this issue with the railroad companies and try and get some resolution. And while we know that you couldn't possibly solve all the issues or resolve all of the conflicts, we do intend to stay on the case and see if we can't work out some of them. And so it was just a very good, interesting meeting. And I want to thank all of the residents of that community, all of the citizens of the 3rd Ward who were there, because that's how you get action. That's how you get movement. That's how you solve problems. We're going to talk a little bit about the census. I'm wearing my census sweatshirt. And for everybody who may think that census taking is something new, it really isn't. 1790 in this country, every 10 years, we count the people. But if you read the Bible and you believe that what is in the Bible actually happened, then you'll get an understanding that Moses told his brother at one point, Aaron, to go and number the people. Now I interpret that mean to count the people and see how many of us there are, for whatever our reasons. Census taken in this country means a great deal. And the realities are, if you don't get counted, in many ways it means that you don't count. And so it means that you don't count for representation. There are people who don't know, for example, that there was a dispute as the Constitution was being put together. And there's something in there called the 3/5 compromise, where they had an argument as to how they were going to count the people who were enslaved and in slavery at the time. Because you're going to use the numbers of people to determine part of the representation, We have a bicameral legislature. And the great compromise, or the big compromise, was let's give every state 2 senators, but let's give them representation in the House based on population. And so the states where there were slaves, they wanted to count the slaves as part of their population. The other states said, well, no, we can't do that. We're going to give you representation for slaves. You don't even count them as citizens. They're not even human beings. They're slaves. So they compromised and agreed that they would count the slaves in these states as 3/5 of a person. That's called the 3/5 compromise. And so it's good to read history and kind of know from whence things have come. There are people who say no changes have occurred. But oh, I tell you, if you go back and read and find out how things were, you might be able to say things have not occurred the way they should have and ought to be, and we want them to be. But to suggest that there have been no changes, I think would be grossly inaccurate. And so history is an understanding of the past, in a sense, that helps us to know how we got to where we are. I always say if you don't know where you come from, you don't know where you're going. My daddy was fond of saying, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. I mean, if you don't know what it is that you hope to get out of these elections, then it's you vote for anybody. You may as well vote for one person as to vote for another. If you don't have something that you want to happen as a result, so let's go to the phone and see what our first caller has to say. Caller,
Yeah,
are
how
you
you doing?
there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, they trying to get Donald Trump off the famous lawyer, and God got the last word.
Yeah, I would, those of us who believe, but you know, there's some people who don't believe there is a God.
Cause he got the last word. God got the last word on everything. Some people don't know that, even including the media.
So I guess we're fortunate, James, to live in a country
Uh,
where people can think what they think and not be afraid of the validity of what they conclude. People can hope what they decide to hope. People can dream what they want to dream. And then they can try and have those dreams become
yeah,
realities.
yeah. Like I said, God's on y'all side. Come here, David.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you for calling. Our number is 312-738-1060, and we'll go right back to the phone. Caller, are you there?
Good evening, Dr. Davis, U.S. Representative of the 7th District. Some things in conflict. And when I say that, when you and senators and the president took an oath to help and defend the Constitution of the United States, it is quite clear to a lot of people. When I listened to one of the president's attorney, and he making this argument that if he is doing certain things in his best interest, that's in his best interest, and he believes it, is in the best interest of the country, he can break the law. And then also, those senators took an oath in terms of being impartial and to be good. I don't know what you call jurors, anything. To judge and do what's in the best interest of the country. There's some problems. And I wish somebody would clear some of that stuff up. If it's confusing for me, I know it's confusing for some other people as well. And I wonder, are those senators going to really abide by the oath they took before they had the Senate trial?
Well, let me ask you, do you think that the trial is a good civic lesson? That there are
Yes, and I
people
don't
who
say.
are learning things that they never knew or didn't think much about in the past?
Now, you asked me a question, I'm going to answer it. When it comes to the law, there's some people that have this type of idea where they could, how do you put it, they could bend the law, they can interpret whatever way they want to, they could have the law interpreted in the way they like it, and they could break the rules. That's what I have a problem about. If you're going to have rules, rules is rules. You cannot change the rules to benefit you so it be in your favor, or interpret the rules in your favor. The rules is supposed to be the rules for everyone, regardless whoever the person may be.
How long do you think it will be in our country before the rules will apply across the board, equal to each and every citizen of our United States of America?
If they show in terms of the president that he's not above the law, maybe. But right now, where the president is right now, he's acting above the law and like he's untouchable. And we can't have a president believing he can get away with something. If you let this president get away with it, there are going to be some others going to do it just as well because he is setting a precedent. Now, if I'm lying, stop me dead in my track.
All right, sound to me like you're telling the truth.
Take care, bye.
All right. All right, thank you very much. We'll go to our next caller.
Yes, Congressman. It's a great day to be alive on God's green earth.
It
But
is
listen,
indeed.
two quick comments. One about the impeachment my child. One thing I should say, everybody look at it and learn how to vote. We got to learn how to vote. Don't sit around just talk and do things. Everybody must vote. Then we might have a chance to treat things equal and right. Another quick comment. Thank you. You were one day early to teaching us about Black History Month, about counting. That's really good. I mean, counting people being here since the beginning of Earth. You remember it just was one, then he made it two. So again, we have to learn how to count. Thanks for taking the call. Let me get out there, hear your response, and have a great day.
Thank you so much. And of course, it's good to know that voice is coming clearer and clearer every time I hear it. And it just means that if we would have the faith and believe, I've heard somebody say the other day that if you would have the faith of a mustard seed and say to yonder's mountain, be moved, the mountain will get out of the way. So just keep on coming. Keep on coming. Our number is 312-738-1060, and you can give us a call. You know, the interesting thing is that anything that remains stoic, that does not move, it remains the same as, and it remains in the same place. But if you want to make progress, you got to keep moving. I heard a gentleman a long time ago talk about an African proverb. And he said that somewhere in the biggest forest in Africa, early in the morning there awakens a zebra. And if that zebra is going to live, at some point he's going to have to outrun the fastest lion. And he said that if that lion is going to eat, he may have to outrun the fastest zebra. And he says whether you are a lion or a zebra, if you're going to make it to the end of the day, you got to keep running. And if you're going to make it, you got to keep running. You got to keep believing. You got to keep working. You got to keep voting. You got to keep thinking. You got to keep doing things. Because if you stay in the same place, something or somebody is likely to run over you. And so to keep from being overrun, you've got to run yourself. You know, I saw a young person who came, I think, with her grandmother today. And she was so excited, and her grandmother wanted her to tell me what kind of day it had been for her, because the teacher had told her something. And when she finally coaxed it out of her, she said that the teacher had told her that she had done exceptionally well reading, and that she was obviously one of the best readers in her class. And I thought of my father, who one of my nephews told my father, says, you know, grandfather, teacher said that I was the best reader in my class. And my father says, he asked him, said, well, Ricky, you know, that's good, but can the other kids in your class read? So sometimes when you measure, you also want to look at the competition. I can outrun some people, but how fast are they going? If they're not going that fast, yeah, I can outrun them. But if they moving at a clip, I'll probably be struggling to catch up. But the real deal is always try to be the best that you can be at whatever it is that you are doing. And so if you got to do something, rehearse it, practice, read over it, go through it. Don't just do it off the cuff. Check it out, and always try and be the best that you could be. I thank God for my parents. Because my parents always admonished us to, one, be yourself. Don't compare yourself so much with other people, because there's always someone who's going to be greater or lesser than yourself. And so if you go around comparing yourself to others, then you may become vain and bitter. So compare yourself with yourself. My mother always wanted to know that you do your best, that you give it your best shot, that you really try. And she even taught us a little poem to reinforce that. And she taught us that if you can't be a pine at the top of the hill, just be a scrub in the valley, but be the best little scrub by the side of the rail. If you can't be a highway, be a trail. If you can't be the moon, be a star. It's not by size that you win or fail, but be the best of whatever you are. And so it doesn't matter where you come from. What really matters is where you're going. Doesn't matter how tough it may have been climbing up the hill, but the real deal is you got to the top. Doesn't take a lot to remember and reminisce about how tough it was to get through physics. But the real deal is you made it. Or what you had to do to learn that new approach to doing mathematics. Or whether or not you were able to get to the top of the rock. But the fact of the matter is you made it. You know, there's a guy who used to sing a song at my church, and I just loved to hear. His name was Willis. And he says that sometimes I felt so alone. I couldn't find no peace in the streets, and I couldn't find no peace at home. But I made it. He says, I got down to my last dime. I had to laugh to keep from crying, but I made it. I think of my good friend Charlie Rangel, who's fond of saying that after everybody in his platoon got killed during the Korean War, that since then he's never had a bad day. And so his motto became pretty much, I've never had a bad day. So if you think in a positive way that you can overcome any obstacle, you can defeat any foe, you can climb the highest mountain, you can swim the widest river, you can make it. So always believe that you're going to be successful, that you're going to win and not lose. My dear mother used to tell us, if a task is once begun, never leave till it's done. Be the labor great or small, do it well or not at all. Whatever it is that you do, let it be your best. Do it with enthusiasm. You'll be all right. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you next week.